Hello, Muster0063 here to continue on to Mega Man 8. From what you saw last time around, perfect running Robot Master stages in this game is certainly no joke. And that makes it a perfect time for... Well, isn't this just a happy, jolly place? Looks can be deceiving. And since I thought my accidental perfect run chances to be rather slim, here's me demonstrating a nice little extra if you can kick a Mega Ball into the clown's mouth. So we drop down into what looks like a toy store with Mini Iceman, Gutsman, and the Stegosaurus type enemies from Mega Man 7. Don't worry, they're just for show. The worms, cannons and Mets on the other hand will attack you, but thankfully none of them are all that threatening. At least on this screen. Back outside, and we're very much into the transportation area of the level. Hot air balloons with rompers waiting to be thrown out and set upon you. Very annoying enemies these. And ideally you want to take out the balloon as soon as possible. And also trains that Mega Man can ride atop in order to progress. Well, there goes the perfect run. Twice. Stupid enemies. One of my personal least favourite of the game, and I always seem to mess up on them. Now, if you do want to ride the trains, make sure you get on the Met-looking area at the back. The front will damage you, and make sure you jump off before they disappear through the doors. That'll hurt you too. And believe me, if you want to get through this area safely, try the lower route. Something I'd clearly forgotten about when the time came for me to record this footage. I persisted with attempting the top route and it did not go well. Mind you, even then, I still don't do a very good job. Yeah, this screen can be nasty if you can't remember exactly how all the enemies are laid out. Time to play noughts and crosses, or tic-tac-toe if you prefer. Not literally, obviously. But the idea here is to be standing on blocks with circles when the bell rings. If you're standing on a cross, then you'll get a nasty surprise, usually in the form of some giant object falling on you, if memory serves. Now you don't have to avoid the crosses all the time, most of the time you'll be fine, but just make sure you keep an eye on the background to see when the bell is going to be rung. And don't be alarmed when Mega Man simply drowns in toys, this will happen every time. But it does drop us off at a mini-boss. CC roll, and boy do I hate this thing. Most of the time it bounces around the screen, occasionally stopping to release two smaller versions of itself, also bounce around the room, or release a set of rompers. So sure, it doesn't look like much to begin with, but after it starts to speed up, that's when the problems begin. It's also a little bit easier or harder to take out the minor enemies, depending on where CC chooses to stop and launch them. Personally, I typically prefer it to stop in the middle, as it just seems to bounce in a slightly more forgiving pattern than if it stops on either edge of the screen, but you need to be careful regardless. And despite my clumsy mess up there, I typically prefer the rompers over the mini CC, at least when they start to speed up. They start to become very difficult to destroy quickly at this point, and having to worry about 3 bouncing enemies all at once is a little bit problematic. Bouncing enemies or projectiles always seem to be an issue for me, especially in I1B games, and Mega Man games are certainly no exception. But we do actually get a prize for beating the mid-boss. It's a Rush upgrade, Rush Charger. And since I don't really show any of these off during Let's Play, I'll add a little extra footage to one of the later videos showing off all those Rush upgrades. Second half of the level, and back to a noughts and crosses. Yes, this is going to be a recurring gimmick in the stage. This time you also have skull blocks. And no, they're not like spikes and insta-kill you or anything. If you're standing on one of these when the bell rings, you merely drop through the block. Of course, if a skull block is situated over spikes, then avoid at all costs. There are also some arrow blocks, and you've guessed it, stand on one of these when the bell rings, and you'll get sent backwards and have to redo the area again. I actually could have used it to get that pretty straightforward bolt I managed to mess up collecting, but oh well. Oh, thanks Party Ball, because I needed a Met on screen as well. Now, since I wasn't about to switch weapons, this little section became very difficult to avoid taking damage on. Once maybe, twice not so much so. That was pretty clumsy. But I think best thing to do is to completely avoid that party vault altogether. Now this area is filled with a few weird enemies, these wind-up robots that try to collide with you, either by running into you or by swinging on trapezes. And there are also some rather scary looking platforms that run on a track. If you can be bothered, you can use them to navigate this section to collect a bolt, but me, nah, didn't like the look of it, and the thought of taking lots of damage just didn't appeal to me. Gotta love being able to shoot through walls though. Makes absolutely no sense, but I'm not complaining. A classic Joe takeout here. And this old Mega Man staple shoots very slow-moving pellet shots at you, or occasionally falls to the ground and arcs a bomb at you. Either way, one of the least threatening incarnations of this enemy type. For the last part of the level, we have another bell block section, and we're introduced to the mystery block. It teleports you to another mystery block, and you're going to need to know which ones to aim for in order to climb this area. Since some of them will take you backwards, first time around this is a little bit of a trial and error game, but once you know the correct blocks to use, dodging the enemies is all you really need to worry about. One last toy drowning, and we've made it to the Robot Master. And you're a weirdo. Now, Clown Man can be a huge handful if you're unfamiliar with him, or not quite sure how to dodge some of his attacks, but contrary to what he seems, he's actually reasonably easy to deal with. He likes to swing on the trapeze in the middle of the room and circle the area. Sometimes he'll just immediately drop down after one half swing, but sometimes he'll fully circle the room once or even twice before landing. Stand in the middle of the screen, as that's where Clown will be at his lowest, and jump over him however many times you need to. He also likes to bounce around the screen in a giant electric ball, and again, if you're unfamiliar with how he's going to bound around, this can be tricky. It's difficult to offer anything definitive for dodging this, as where you'll need to be is dependent on where on screen Clown is, so do your best to identify the safe spots. Occasionally, he'll try to thunderclaw you, so his arms will disappear underground and pop up where you're standing. You need to fake it out and then ideally jump out of the way, assuming you ever to do so, as I clearly don't there. Yeah, don't think this fight's going well enough for you to be calling me a wimp. Anyway, lastly, oh yeah, needed more stuff. Sometimes he'll charge at you across the floor, but jumping over this is usually easy enough. All in all, looks rather intimidating, and I remember him giving me a whole load of trouble when I very first played this game. But ultimately, once you know what to do, I don't think he's really that bad.
See you in my dreams.
I get a particularly annoying weapon that we'll see quite a bit of. But I'll save my hatred for this weapon for later. Kind of an irritating level, that, in places, and it's only the second stage. Not quite irritating enough, though. I'll probably say something along these lines for every stage, but just to reiterate, owing to the length of Mega Man 8 stages, and that I can essentially talk about everything I want to during the Let's Play portions, I'm only going to be chiming in to discuss areas where personal attempts ended, and hence there will be many more longer sections where I'm not talking. So first trouble spot on the stage, this train screen. Ultimately this took a little bit of replaying in order to appreciate when I need to ride on trains to the top of the screen, and when I'd be better off taking the lower routes. 6 mess-ups on this screen in total. And 2 of them just trying to pull off that slide dodge at the end. Wow, was this thing ever a pain. 7 outtakes on the mid-boss. And be forewarned, I hate all mid-bosses in this game. Now I could give you a variety of reasons why my runs ended, but in the majority of instances, it was when it stopped to shoot out 2 quick-moving mini-versions of itself from a corner of the screen. That is by far and away the most annoying combination for me. And just in case you're wondering why I didn't collect the rush charger here, it's because on my first unsuccessful run, when I got to the second half of the stage, I'd already collected. I could have reset the game, but that would have been a huge waste of time. Similarly with the bolt that's no longer here. I'd already collected it on a previous perfect run attempt. Oh, and one failure here caused by trying to go for the bolt by staying on higher ground. Better strategy is to let yourself drop down to a lower level, as the cannon enemy won't be anywhere near as annoying. One screw up here, exactly the same as in my Let's Play. Opened the party ball, got a met for my trouble, and couldn't get by both enemies. And the final level outtake here. Dropped down too quick. You'll have seen me rest there on the ladder for a brief moment, and landed right up on a wind-up toy. Believe me, it really did wind me up.
You've got no chance.
And I'm delighted to report that I didn't have any outtakes on Clown Man. So, simply enjoy the flight.
Thunder Carnival! Watch it! Watch it! Thunder Carnival! Watch it! Thunder Carnival! Thunder Claw! Thunder Carnival! Watch it! Thunder Claw! Watch it! Watch it! Watch it! Watch it! Thunder Carnival! Watch it! Thunder Claw! Watch it! Thunder Claw! Thunder Carnival! Thunder Claw! See you in my dreams.
That's another one chalked off the perfect run list. And believe me, any triumph on a Mega Man 8 Robot Master stage is a huge relief. It took me 55 minutes to get the perfect run on Clown stage, suffering 16 outtakes during that time, although very happily, none on the Robot Master. This stage is a very mixed bag, with most of the difficulty, I believe anyway, coming from the first half of the level, as I include the mid-boss as part of the first half. Save for general clumsiness elsewhere every now and then, the long train screen is probably the most awkward to get through. Not only do you have to watch out for a few irritatingly placed enemies during this screen, but the trains themselves, which just seem to know exactly where the most off-putting locations on the screen are. All things equal, I tend to favour taking a high route where possible, but there is at least one occasion where I actually much prefer to take a lower path, so that I'm not atop the trains when they smack into one another. Familiarity with this screen ended up being a huge help. And then of course there's the damn mid-boss. So let me say again, right now, the mid-bosses in this game, in terms of trying to complete perfect runs, are annoying as all hell. This one's not too bad until the speed of the bouncing projectiles increase, then it becomes rather tricky to avoid them and the mid-boss himself. But knowing where to position yourself, dependent on screen where the mid-boss starts to perform an attack, is crucial, and then ensuring you take out the projectiles or the clown dolls quickly even more so. Don't have much of a problem with the clown dolls, but the bouncing projectiles, particularly when they speed up, are annoying. And from then on, yes, I messed up a couple of times, but this was more clumsiness on my part than the level throwing any great difficult spots at me. I'll admit it's very helpful to know which question mark blocks to stand on for the climbing segment, because the less time you spend there having to avoid enemies perennially shooting at you the better, but it's still not a terribly difficult section. Other than this area, I don't think there's really anything in the second half of the level that should ordinarily trip me up. And as for Clown Man, not a Robot Master to be taken lightly, but I still think he's very dodgeable. Make sure you leave enough room to jump, preferably away from him, so that you can avoid his hand grab attack, and be prepared to jump if Clown swings on the trapeze, although watch out for him increasing his speed if he swings multiple times in succession. The only thing that might really catch you out is his Thunder Cannonball attack, because the safe spots are a bit determined by where on screen Clown starts his attack. But once you get used to how far he bounces each time, especially off the walls, you'll start to get a rhythm down. So, much like Frost, not a pushover, but still not too difficult. Oh dear. Second Robot Master stage, and I'm already not happy. Not angry yet either, but the damn mid-boss of this stage was more than enough to leave me feeling rather frustrated. I give Clown a 5 out of 10. Almost all the difficulty comes from the first half of the level, which is good in some ways, as it meant I spent less time on this stage than I otherwise might have. It did have the downside, though, of making me rather nervous on the second half, as I know I've already cleared the worst, yet still have around 4 minutes of gameplay ahead before I'll achieve success. So everything on the second half just becomes that little bit edgier than it ordinarily would be, and any screw-ups were especially annoying. But the difficulty on the first half is not extreme, and the Robomaster is, in my opinion, one of the easiest of the game, so I don't think any higher rating is warranted. So that's 2 stages now safely negotiated. Had some real difficulty coming up with a punny end to indicate the next Robomaster I'll be going after, so I wonder, Tengu do any better? Hopefully see you next time. Cheerio.